You know what? I'm done pretending this didn't destroy me. I'm done acting like I'm okay with being treated like I'm invisible, like I'm nothing, like I don't matter. Because for 28 years of my life, that's exactly how my family made me feel. And I let them. My name is Sarah. I'm 31 years old, and until 1 month ago, I thought the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally were just difficult. I thought maybe I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe if I just kept my head down, kept helping, kept being the reliable one in the background, they'd finally see me as more than just nothing. But you want to know what really happened? You want to know how the same people who told me I was worthless, who threw me out like garbage, ended up begging me to save them? Because that's exactly what happened. 1 month after my own mother looked me in the eye and told me I was nothing but a burden, after she said maybe life would teach me something when I had no roof over my head, those same people were calling me their only hope. And God, it hurts to even say that out loud. It hurts because for so long I believed them. Before I continue, I would like for you to support me by smashing that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Also, don't forget to like and share this video. Let me paint you a picture of my family. Status obsessed doesn't even begin to cover it. These are people who care more about what the neighbors think than they care about their own daughter. Every family gathering, every holiday, every single interaction felt like a performance. Like we were all actors playing roles in some perfect family show that only existed in their heads. My younger sister Emma was always the star of that show. She was their public project, their shining example of good parenting. Everything she did was celebrated, showcased, praised to the heavens. When she graduated high school, they threw a party and invited half the neighborhood. When she got into college, they posted about it on social media for weeks. When she decided she wanted to start a business, they called everyone they knew to tell them about their entrepreneurial daughter. And me? I was the stagehand. The person working behind the scenes to make sure everything looked perfect for everyone else. I was the one who remembered birthdays, who organized family events, who cleaned up after their parties, who listened to their problems. I was useful, but never celebrated. Functional, but never valued. You know what they used to say when people asked about me? Oh, Sarah's still figuring things out. Like I was some kind of lost cause, some kind of project that just wasn't working out the way they hoped. The thing is, I stopped trying to get their attention years ago. When I was 18 and built my first profitable automation tool, I was so excited to show them. I thought maybe, finally, they'd see that I was capable of something. You know what my father said? Stop playing on the computer and get a real job. My mother laughed and told me I should focus on things I was actually good at. So I did. I focused on what I was good at. I just didn't tell them about it. I moved to Portland after college and built my company quietly. While they were busy telling everyone how Emma was going to change the world with her boutique clothing business, I was building systems that generated 7 figures a year. While they were posting photos of Emma's business meetings and calling her their little entrepreneur, I was managing clients across 3 countries and had more money in my bank account than all of them combined. But I lived quietly. I drove a modest car. I lived in a nice, but not flashy apartment. I didn't post about my success on social media. I didn't brag. I didn't make it about status or image or proving anything to anyone. Because unlike them, I didn't need external validation to feel good about myself. At least, that's what I told myself. The truth is, I was hiding. I was hiding my success because some part of me was still that little girl who just wanted her parents to be proud of her for who she was, not what she accomplished. Some part of me thought if they knew about my money, that's all they'd care about. And I wanted them to love me first, then maybe be impressed by what I'd built. God, I was so naive. You want to know the really sick part? While I was building my life, they were busy rewriting the story of who I was. To them, I was the daughter who couldn't hold a stable job. The one who was always between things. The one they had to worry about because she just couldn't get her life together. That Thanksgiving, when my mother followed me into the hallway and said those words, "You're nothing but a burden." Maybe life will teach you something when you have no roof over your head. That wasn't some moment of anger. That wasn't her losing her temper. That was her finally saying out loud what she'd been thinking for years. And the worst part? Everyone heard her. My sister, my father, my aunt who was visiting. They all heard her and they all just pretended they didn't. They went back to cleaning dishes and making small talk like she hadn't just shattered me into 1,000 pieces. I walked out of that house and I didn't say a word. What was I supposed to say? How do you respond to your own mother telling you that you're worthless? How do you defend yourself against people who have already decided you're not worth defending? I drove back to my apartment in complete silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I just sat on my couch and stared at the wall, and for the first time in my life, I saw the situation with complete clarity. They didn't know me. After 31 years of being their daughter, they didn't know a single true thing about my life. They didn't know about my company, my clients, my success. They didn't know about the automated systems I'd built that were running businesses across the country. They didn't know that I was financially independent, that I hadn't needed their help or support in over a decade. But more than that, they didn't want to know. Because knowing the truth about me would mean admitting they were wrong. It would mean admitting that the daughter they'd written off, the daughter they'd ignored and diminished and treated like a burden, had actually built something incredible. And that realization didn't make me sad. It made me angry. I was angry at them for never caring enough to actually see me. I was angry at myself for caring so much about people who clearly didn't care about me. I was angry that I'd wasted so many years trying to earn love from people who had already decided I wasn't worth loving. But you know what made me furious? What made my blood boil with a rage I'd never felt before? 3 days after Thanksgiving, a friend from high school sent me a screenshot of my sister's Instagram post. She'd written this long, emotional thing about family struggles and supporting each other through difficult times. And right there, in the middle of her post, she mentioned that I was currently between homes and asked for prayers for our family during this challenging time. Between homes. Like I was homeless. Like I was some kind of charity case they were dealing with. They had turned their abuse of me into a public narrative about their own generosity. They had taken the moment where they threw me out, where they told me I was worthless, and somehow made themselves the heroes of the story. I screenshotted that post and saved it. Because at that moment, I realized this wasn't just about family dynamics or personality conflicts. This was about people who were willing to destroy my reputation to make themselves look better. But that was just the beginning. A week later, I got a call from a loan officer. He was calling to confirm some updates on renovation financing that had been taken out in my name. Renovation financing. For a property I'd never seen. For improvements I'd never agreed to, with my name on documents I'd never signed. I asked him to email me everything. Every document, every signature, every piece of paperwork. And there it was, my name, my social security number, my credit information, all used to guarantee a business loan for $180,000. A loan that had partially funded Emma's boutique expansion and partially paid for renovations to my parents' house. They had forged my signature. They had used my credit. They had committed fraud using my identity, and they had done it while publicly portraying me as unstable and unreliable. The rage I felt in that moment. I don't have words for it. It was pure, white-hot fury. Not just because they had stolen from me, but because they had done it while treating me like I was nothing. They had used my financial stability to fund their dreams while telling everyone I was a failure. I called my attorney that same day. Not to yell, not to vent, but to understand exactly what had happened and what my options were. What I learned made everything even worse. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned. My attorney explained that the type of fraud they'd committed required multiple steps, multiple forgeries, multiple lies to multiple institutions. This had been going on for months. While I was trying to figure out why my own mother had been so cruel to me at Thanksgiving, they were already stealing from me. While I was wondering if I'd done something to deserve their treatment, they were committing crimes in my name. They hadn't just hurt me emotionally. They had actively sabotaged my financial reputation while building their own lives on money they'd stolen from me. I had a choice to make. I could confront them, demand answers, try to make them understand how much they'd hurt me. I could play the victim, call them crying, beg them to explain why they would do this to me. Or I could stop giving them power over my emotions and start thinking strategically. I chose strategy. My attorney explained that the loan was already in trouble. Emma's boutique wasn't generating enough revenue to make the payments, and the renovation costs had gone over budget. They were behind on payments, and the bank was starting to make noise about default. Here's the thing about being guarantor on a loan. If the primary borrowers default, the guarantor becomes responsible for the debt. But it also means the guarantor has certain rights, including the right to take possession of collateral if they pay off the defaulted loan. I had been set up to take the fall if their plan failed, but that also meant I had the legal right to take control if I chose to pay off their debt. So that's exactly what I did. I instructed my attorney to monitor the loan status and prepare for acquisition of the debt if it defaulted. I had him research every piece of property and business asset that had been used as collateral. I had him prepare all the legal documentation we'd need to take possession. And I waited. I didn't call them. I didn't confront them. I didn't give them any warning that I knew what they'd done. I just waited and let their own financial irresponsibility destroy the foundation they'd built on stolen money. It didn't take long. 3 weeks later, the loan officially defaulted. Emma's boutique hadn't made a payment in 2 months. My parents had missed their portion of the obligation as well. The bank began foreclosure proceedings on the collateral, which included Emma's business assets and a lien on my parents' house. That's when my attorney made our move. As the guarantor who had been defrauded, I had the legal right to satisfy the debt and take possession of the collateral. So that's exactly what we did. Overnight, I became the legal owner of Emma's business assets and held a controlling lien on my parents' property. And they had no idea. The first sign they had that something was wrong came when Emma got a notice that her business bank accounts had been frozen pending resolution of debt collection. The second sign was when my parents received a letter requiring them to attend a mandatory meeting with the lender to discuss their default. That's when they started panicking. My cousin called me 2 days later. She'd heard from my aunt that the family was in crisis. Emma was hysterical because her business was being shut down. My parents were terrified they were going to lose their house. Everyone was scrambling to figure out what had gone wrong with the loan. Sarah, my cousin said, "I know you and your family have had some issues, but they really need help right now." Emma is in tears. "Your mom is having anxiety attacks. Do you think you could maybe help them figure out what happened?" Help them? They wanted me to help them clean up the mess they'd made by stealing from me. They wanted the daughter they'd called worthless to save them from the consequences of their own crimes. I told my cousin I'd look into it. Then I instructed my attorney to send them a formal notice requiring their attendance at a debt resolution meeting. We scheduled it for the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. in a conference room downtown. Professional, neutral, and completely under my control. I didn't tell them I'd be there. That Tuesday, I arrived at the conference room 30 minutes early. I sat at the head of the table with my attorney beside me and a stack of documents in front of us. Legal documents, financial records, evidence of fraud, and the paperwork that proved I now controlled their entire financial future. When they walked in, I watched their faces change from confusion to recognition to absolute terror. Emma saw me first. She stopped dead in the doorway and went completely white. "Sarah? What? Why are you here?" My mother was next. She looked from me to my attorney to the documents on the table, and I could see her trying to put the pieces together. "I don't understand. We're here to meet with the lender." My father was the last to react, but when he did, he tried to take control the way he always had. "Sarah, what's going on? Why are you here? Did you know about this meeting?" I didn't answer immediately. I let them settle into their seats across from me. I let them feel uncomfortable and confused and afraid. I let them experience what it felt like to be powerless in a situation they didn't understand. Then I spoke. "I'm here because you used my name to guarantee a loan for $180,000. You forged my signature on documents. You used my credit without my permission. You committed fraud, and when that fraud resulted in default, I became responsible for your debt." The room went dead silent. Emma's face crumpled. "Sarah, we can explain now." My voice was calm, but I could feel the fury underneath it. "You cannot explain. You can't explain why you told everyone I was homeless while you were stealing my money. You can't explain why you called me worthless while you were building your lives on my financial foundation. You can't explain any of this because there is no explanation that makes what you did okay." My mother tried next. "Honey, you don't understand. We were going to pay it back. It was just temporary. Emma's business needed capital, and we knew you were. We thought you wouldn't miss it. You thought I wouldn't miss $180,000? I laughed, and the sound was bitter even to my own ears. You thought I wouldn't notice that my name was on a business loan for a business I've never seen? Or did you just think I was too stupid to figure it out? That's not what we meant, my father said, but his voice was weak. He knew he was caught. My attorney leaned forward. Let me clarify the situation for everyone. Ms. Sarah is not here as a family member trying to resolve a family dispute. She's here as the current legal owner of the debt you defaulted on. She's here because when you committed fraud using her identity, you gave her the legal right to take possession of the collateral you offered to secure that fraud. You should have seen their faces. The moment they realized that their own crimes had given me complete power over them was. I wish I could say it felt good, but it didn't feel good. It felt necessary. Emma started crying. Sarah, please. You can't do this. That boutique is my whole life. I worked so hard. You worked so hard with my money. I cut her off. Money you stole. Money you took while publicly humiliating me and privately destroying my reputation. We never meant to hurt you, my mother whispered. Yes, you did. The words came out harder than I intended, but they were true. You absolutely meant to hurt me. You meant to hurt me when you told me I was worthless. You meant to hurt me when you told everyone I was unstable. You meant to hurt me when you used my name to commit fraud. Every single thing you did was designed to benefit yourselves at my expense. My father tried one last time to assert authority. Sarah, you're our daughter. Family doesn't do this to family. You're right, I said. Family doesn't do this to family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't commit fraud. Family doesn't throw each other away. You taught me what family doesn't do. You taught me very well. I opened the folder in front of me and pulled out 2 documents. These are your options. Option 1. You can sell the property that's been used as collateral, pay off the debt, and walk away. Option 2. You can enter into a rental agreement for the property, managed by my attorneys, with terms that ensure the debt is paid off over time. And Emma's business? My mother asked. Emma's business was funded with stolen money. The assets belong to me now. She can start over with her own money and her own credit. Emma was sobbing now. You're destroying my life. No. I stood up and looked at each of them. You destroyed your own lives the moment you decided I was worth less than the money you could steal from me. I'm just refusing to let you destroy mine in the process. I picked up my papers and looked at them one final time. You told me that maybe life would teach me something when I had no roof over my head. You were right. Life taught me that I don't need people who see me as worthless. Life taught me that I'm strong enough to stand on my own. Life taught me that sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones you need to protect yourself from most. I turned toward the door, then stopped. You have 48 hours to decide which option you want to take. My attorney will handle all communication from this point forward. As I walked out, I heard my mother call my name. I heard Emma begging me to reconsider. I heard my father demanding I come back and discuss this like adults. I kept walking. The aftermath was swift and predictable. They chose to sell the property rather than live under my terms. Emma's boutique closed within 2 weeks. My parents moved into a smaller house in a different neighborhood. The extended family learned the truth about what had happened, and suddenly the narrative about poor, unstable Sarah shifted dramatically. But you know what the most painful part was? Even after everything, even after all the evidence, even after the legal documents and the fraud charges and the complete destruction of their carefully constructed lies, they still couldn't admit they were wrong. My father sent me one email after the dust settled. It said, I hope you're satisfied with what you've done to this family. Like I was the one who had done something to them. Like I was the one who had destroyed our family. Like their crimes were somehow my fault because I refused to be a victim of them. That email broke something in me that I didn't even know was still holding on. Some last, small hope that they might recognize how much they'd hurt me. Some tiny possibility that they might apologize, might try to make things right, might finally see me as something other than an obstacle to their happiness. But they couldn't. They couldn't see past their own selfishness and entitlement to understand that I was a human being who deserved basic respect and honesty. So I let go. I let go of the idea that they would ever love me the way I needed to be loved. I let go of the hope that they would ever see me as valuable. I let go of the dream that someday we'd be a real family instead of strangers who happened to share DNA. And when I let go of all of that, something amazing happened. I stopped hurting. For the first time in my adult life, their opinion of me didn't matter. Their approval wasn't something I needed. Their love wasn't something I was trying to earn. I was free. I threw myself back into my work with a clarity and focus I'd never had before. Without the constant background noise of trying to manage my relationship with people who didn't respect me, I was able to expand my business into markets I'd never considered. I hired employees. I developed new products. I built partnerships with companies I'd admired for years. My income doubled, then tripled. Not because money mattered, but because I was finally able to work without the emotional weight of their disapproval dragging me down. I moved to a new apartment. A beautiful place with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the mountains. I decorated it exactly the way I wanted, with art I loved and furniture that made me happy. I didn't worry about whether they would approve of my choices because their approval was no longer relevant to my life. I started dating someone who actually sees me. Someone who celebrates my successes instead of minimizing them. Someone who asks about my work because he's genuinely interested, not because he's looking for ways to tear me down. Someone who makes me feel valued for who I am, not what I can do for him. And slowly, the anger faded. Not because I forgave them. I don't think what they did is forgivable. But because anger was taking up space in my life that I wanted to use for better things. Now, when I think about that Thanksgiving, when I remember my mother's words, I don't feel the sharp stab of pain I used to feel. I feel nothing. Because her words don't define me anymore. Her opinion doesn't shape my reality. I learned something that day that I wish I'd learned years ago. You cannot make people love you by being smaller. You cannot earn respect by accepting disrespect. You cannot build healthy relationships with people who see you as fundamentally flawed. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from people who consistently choose to hurt you. Even if those people are family. Even if walking away means being alone for a while. Even if it means accepting that the family you wanted will never be the family you have. I am better now without them than I ever was with them. I am happier, more successful, more confident, and more at peace. I have friends who genuinely care about me. I have work that fulfills me. I have a life that I built on my own terms, with my own values, according to my own definition of success. And if that makes me selfish, if that makes me cruel, if that makes me the villain in their story, then I'm okay with that. Because I'd rather be the villain in their story than continue being the victim in mine. You know what the real tragedy is? It didn't have to be this way. If they had just seen me, just acknowledged my worth, just treated me with basic human respect, we could have had a relationship. Not a perfect family, but a real one built on mutual love and genuine care. But they chose status over substance. They chose appearance over authenticity. They chose to use me rather than love me. And in the end, that choice cost them everything they thought they were protecting. So to anyone listening who recognizes themselves in my story, who has family that makes them feel small, who has people in their life who consistently choose to hurt them rather than heal with them, I want you to know this. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You are not required to accept abuse because it comes from people who share your DNA. You are not responsible for fixing people who are determined to stay broken. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you can provide. And if the people in your life can't or won't give you those things, then maybe it's time to find people who will. Maybe it's time to choose yourself. Because sometimes, choosing yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. And sometimes, the family you build is better than the family you were born into. That's my story. That's how the people who told me I was nothing ended up needing everything from me. That's how I learned that my worth was never determined by their ability to see it. And that's how I finally learned to choose myself. Until next time, my wonderful family, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss my uploads.